God of nations at thy feet, in the bonds of love we meet. Hear our voices, we entreat. God defend our free land. God Pacific's triple star, from the shafts of strife and war, make her praises heard afar. God defend New Zealand. Men of every creed and race, gather here before thy face, asking thee to bless this place. God defend our free land from dissension, envy, hate, and corruption. God, our state, make our country good and great. God defend New Zealand. Peace not war shall be our boast. Bloodshed foes assail our coast. Make us then a mighty host. God defend our free land. Lord of battles in thy might, put our enemies to flight. Let our cause just and right. God defend New Zealand. Let our love for thee increase. May thy blessings never cease. Give us plenty, give us peace. God defend our free land from dishonor and from shame. God, our country's spotless name, crown her with immortal fame. God defend New Zealand.
Kia ora, e te whānau. How are we? I'm trying, oh gosh, I could take my glasses off because the reflection is not the best. So where am I? I'm still up at the Hohipera. And Dad's absolutely improved from last week. He's still trying to get his strength back, and now the renal unit, we're all trying to prepare for him to go back home. Here's the thing, when kaumātua tend to present themselves too many times at the hohipera, then they're encouraged to go into a rest home. And for us as Māori, we find that culturally insensitive. So I've reminded the hospital, but that is not our way, and that where possible, we will try and provide the best care for Dad, even if I have to travel back home, and we do rosters as a whānau and get support from the community. Because my papa has said that he doesn't want to go into a rest home, keeping in mind that he has worked in mental health, Māori mental health, for 2 decades now, and he has worked in elderly, dealt with elderly abuse in that space for probably nearly 10 years. And so he knows all about rest homes, he knows how they operate, and there's not many Māori that are put in there, and we've got to look too, because a lot more Māori are getting dementia now. We didn't have that in the generations beforehand. So for I guess peace of mind of whānau, and for our kaumātua that have dementia, at the point where they need to 24-hour care, that option's there. But I have to ask the question, why is it that we now have a generation of kaumātua that has so much dementia, when as all the generations previously, we didn't have that problem? And thank goodness that my papa still has his faculties about him. It's just his body is letting him, his tinana is letting him down. So we got the renal unit wanting to push us into Dad into a state care, basically, because of his dialysis, and because they don't feel that we as a whānau or the community can provide the same care. I beg to differ, and so I've challenged them and challenged their thinking on that, and said you have to work a bit harder for us as Māori and actually try and make it work, because we have the resources out in the community. The question is, does Māori have access to the resources out in the community? And report after report after report will say that we don't. So this is something that I've been working with the renal unit, and said, look, if we can find a way for Dad on making this work, then there's other whānau that can follow after us. So it's been a lot of hard work, whānau. A lot of hard work, just managing Dad. Dad, he does 4 bags a day. They've got him on to 1 night bag now, and we're trialling that out. It's sent me into a bit of an anxiety, because he's always been on 4 bags. The nighttime one is so he long story short, the bags have different formulas and different strengths, and what the bags do, if your kidneys have failed, they get rid of the toxins and the fluid in your body. That's what they do. And to just go from 4 bags to 1 bag, me and my whānau are having little anxieties. We've just tried it today and tonight. I've still got to speak to the renal unit about that. And a lot of it is about that Dad can no longer do his bags because of his health. He is getting stronger, and you never know, he may get back to that point again. But it's going to take a bit of mahi on his part to achieve that. So there are a number of different options, I guess, And with those different options come different responsibilities. So one option potentially means he has to have someone on call when he's on a night machine. He has to have someone on call during that night time, just in case anything happens. So, we've got to look at those options. So, sorry if I haven't. I try and keep my page warm, and especially putting stuff in about Sue. But that's where I'm at in the space of diabetes, and trying to work with the renal unit, work with the hospital, and try and access the community support that my dad needs for him to go home. Because to me, and Dad's pretty much said it, there's no way he wants to go to a rest home. I believe it's a death sentence for him. So being at home is where he wants to be, and so I've got to make, and my whānau have got to try and make that happen. So that's where I've been in that space. I haven't been able to support Sue Gray in the way that I wanted to for her by-election, and all I can do is just put some of what she's up to on my page, and she's doing the hard yards. Now, here's the thing: we have a two-tier system where mainstream media and mainstream believe there's only 3 parties running in the Tauranga by-election, rather than 12 candidates, I think, all up. And there are a number of small parties that are challenging the status quo, challenging Labour, challenging National, dare I say it, challenging ACT. So, we don't have a democracy when mainstream media and mainstream itself do not bring all 12 candidates together to battle it out. It's not a democracy, it's a two-tier system. So you've got these 3 parties, and you saw it on News Hub and you saw it on One News. They get interviewed and their profiles put out there, and it's protecting the status quo, right? And we know that the status quo is not working in a truly democratic society. In regards to my positioning in this whole space, it is about fighting for our rights and our freedoms, but more importantly, if we care about the future generation, it is about fighting for their rights and their freedoms, because our rights and freedoms are on a knife edge. And if we don't pull it back, as we saw with the WHO trying to usurp and take sovereign rights from states around the world by stealth. And because everyone woke up to that, thank God, like literally thank God. And that's why I play our national anthem, because it's the most powerful, potent karakia ever. So whānau, we've got to learn all those verses. We've got to learn all those verses. And it's very important, because if you listen to the words, and the words have come up, you listen to the words, how powerful is our national anthem. And we want to work hard to get our national anthem to be played and sung in our parliament. And if they don't want to sing our national anthem, those members of parliament, then they expose themselves as not truly being there for the people of New Zealand, for the people of Aotearoa. So anyway, I'm a bit wee wah. I'm going to play Neil Oliver. It's only a short clip, whānau, but I think it's important, and it sort of sticks with the theme of our kōrero about democracy, and then we'll come back and talk about what's happening in Sue Gray's space as the Outdoor and Freedoms Party co-leader for Tauranga at the by-election. And if you've been following her, and I hope you have, and I hope you've been sending whānau towards her, more and more people are starting to find out about her, and they like what they hear. She is one of the most, and I'm not saying this because the reason why I joined the Outdoors and Freedom Party is because of the sincerity and the genuine monarchy that she shows people, even to her enemies. I mean, even to her enemies, she's a lot more nicer to her enemies than I would ever be. just just saying. But anyway, I'm going to play this clip. I'm going to mute myself, and then we'll have a kōrero afterwards. Hopefully, I don't get kicked out of this room. I did see a night nurse come in, and I just waved just before we went live. So I'm really not supposed to be in this room, but it's the only space in the whole ward where I can get some privacy. So I will mute myself, and while I'm playing Neil Oliver's clip, I'll go back and I'll read your comments. And then acknowledge all of you that have come on and made comments on my page. Okay, won't be a tick.
Around the world, and I see a world misled in total. President Joe Biden, that's a disaster. If not mired in all sorts of, sleaze and corruption on account of, and not least because of association with his own son, Hunter Biden. That's a lost cause. The British government, no. The leaders of Europe, no. I look around the world at Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has, at the moment, fallen. They embarked. Their latest government was elected on a manifesto of going organic, and so in its entirety, Sri Lanka stopped using modern pesticides and herbicides and fertilizers. And surprise, surprise, the harvests fell by 30%. Food's become unaffordable, yields are down, people are starving. They've got like over 100 developing countries. They're mired in eye-watering international debt. I think they were being held afloat by short-term IMF, International Monetary Fund loans. It's all gone to pot. There's rioting. At least one politician has been killed by the mob. So Sri Lanka is a canary in the coal mine, because, as I say, there are developing countries all over Africa, all over Asia, all over South America. A perfect storm made of unaffordable energy, unavailable food, and disastrous misleadership by those in positions of power. There's not a single person up on their hind legs at the moment in the world in a position of leadership that I would take any kind of shred of confidence from. It's an age of dinosaurs in a world struck by a meteorite. The time of the dinosaurs, which is to say the leaders of the world, has passed. And out of sight at the moment, down around their ankles, are rising the mammals. And from among those mammals will come the new leaders. But they're not here yet. But hopefully when they do arrive, they can start to turn the ship around.
So hopefully when the new leaders arrive, they can turn the ship around. Oh my golly gosh. And that's what we're trying to do, starting with the by-election in Tauranga, and keeping an eye out on what's happening around our space politically. So remember, we've got our local government elections coming up in September, October, and that's important. We start there as well. We start there, and we've just got to get, democracy is so important. It's interesting because in Tauranga Moana, watching the interviews on TV, the national candidate, the Labour's candidate who's already in government, so it's a bit foolish if you vote her in because she's there, right? And then candidate. And out of the three, if I was to choose out of the three, I quite liked the ACT candidate. Why? Because he's homegrown. He's grassroots. He's quite raw. But there's integrity, I think, in what he says. What makes this whole process, the by-election whole process, is it's a scam. It's a scam fronting as if it's a democratic process, and we know it's not. When people put their names forward, and it doesn't matter which party they put their name forward, they as we said, when I belong to the Māori Party, is we put our tupuna name up there, and we put our name up there. So for me, my name is Donna Pokere-Phillips. Pokere is my tupuna name. Phillips is my married name. So there are two sides of me. I'm putting their names forward. Donna is who I am. That's the name that my parents gave me. But I am representing them. We're putting them out there. And so to be treated in this by-election, to be cancelled out in this by-election, is disgusting. It's a disgusting show of what they are trying to call democracy. So what's been amazing that's come out of this, though, is that the smaller parties have created their own momentum, created their own meetings, and gone around and done their own thing and gone around to the people. So as much as the media try to manipulate the outcomes of elections, because that's exactly what the media is doing. That's exactly what News Grub, that's why I call them News Grub, is doing, and even TV1. Now, we got to remember $327 billion has been paid to the media. So no way do they want to upset Labour, who is pumping money into the media. So the media is sponsored. And just like I've talked in the past about sponsored science, sponsored media, sponsored, anything sponsored by the government is sponsored, eh? So we don't have a free and democratic society like our politicians think we have. Now, interesting enough, I don't know, so we've seen a reshuffle. There's some interesting members of parliament that are holding their new portfolios, which is quite interesting. But I think the one that really gores me the most is Trevor Mallard becoming, oh my golly gosh, it's really an insult, isn't it? But becoming a diplomat. Now that's just using the taxpayers' money to set this man up in a position that he does not deserve. He does not deserve. He's got enough. He's been a career politician, 35 years. A bully? He's a bully. How do you put a bully? How do you, in all good conscience, I'm sorry, I'm just lost for words because I don't understand it. He's going to represent us overseas as a diplomat. He hasn't got a diplomatic bone in his body. And I think, I totally agree with what Winston Peters has been saying about Mallard, and the fact that Winston Peters is going to challenge him in court. So watch this space. I mean, he's assaulted people, he's abused people. Just look at the occupation in Wellington alone. And he was using techniques of torture when he was in Wellington. Just remember that. And now he's going to be our diplomat. Now that probably galls me more than anything else, apart from the mandates and the whole rollout and all the issues around that, because you know my position. You know my position. But this is just, this is just not okay. Just not okay. And my position, as you know, is giving voices to those vaccine injured, giving voices to those that were vaccine injured and died of their vaccines. They believed when the government said that the vaccine was safe and effective. Here's an interesting thing. I had my nephew up visiting Dad last night, and we were talking, and he said, "I've watched some of your lives, Auntie," and he said, we were talking about. I was sharing with him my position, and we were talking about his koro, my dad, and what's happened to him over this last year now, right? Since his second vaccine and now since his booster. And so my nephew wanted to know more about it. And I said, look, I'll go on to MedSafe. And I said, and I'll flick you the link. So I went on there. MedSafe has gone down. Its system has gone down. And so I checked on the ministry's NHI, which is the NHI. Oh gosh, sorry if I know my brain's a bit tired. It is the health index. Health index. So it's more about where you can find data. I'm just going to Google it. NHI something health index. National. Brain's a bit slow. National Health Index. So I went on there and I thought, okay, MedSafe is down. Went on there. That's down as well. And then I thought, oh, okay, I'll go on to the Ministry of Health. And that was down as well. And I was like, then I tried ringing them today to see what had happened, and I couldn't get through. So that to me is a red flag, and I'm not too sure. And if anyone else, I haven't checked tonight because I've had a really busy day, but if anyone else can check to see if that whole system is still down, and the question is, why is it still down? And the reason why I wanted to check the data is because I wanted to look at the deaths after the booster. So they've got the first jab. There's over 1,000 deaths after the first jab. There's over 1,000 deaths after the second jab, and there were a number of deaths happening after the booster. And I wanted to see how many more have died. And you got to remember, this is by the time they put up the records on MedSafe, they're about 28 days behind, right? And so I wanted to see the latest update on MedSafe to see how many have passed away after the booster. Why? Because we buried our nephew, and I couldn't go to the tangi, and it's the first time I haven't been able to awhi my husband. And his death has been classed as a sudden adult death. So we had sudden infant death syndrome. Now we have a sudden adult death syndrome, right? Because they don't know why these young, fit, healthy adults are dying. Now, my nephew was a brilliant, absolutely brilliant, strong league player. Brilliant league player. I mean, he should have and could have made it to the Kiwis if he really wanted to. He's so fit and so strong, and we're all in shock because he's like the last person you would ever think would pass, right? And so we're asking the question: why are these healthy young people dying when they're in their prime? And so I wanted to start checking, because my husband has told me, because he was coming back and then another whānau member died, so he had to go back to that tangi. He travelled down today and found out another whānau member had died. And he said, that's about 10 in the last week. and the whānau, or the last few days anyway, and the whānau are beside themselves, and they're asking the question, why are our whānau dying? What's happening? Now, I said to my husband, they need to start asking their leaders, why are they dying? Because I have my own opinion on that. And it's a very strong opinion as well. And I said people have to start connecting the dots. And I don't know if there's been because after the boosters, like in hospitals, they're bringing student nurses into hospitals because so many staff are off sick, right? Now, they can't blame it on the flu, even though I think the government will try and blame it on the flu. But there's just, and here's the other issue: why can't the healthy unvaccinated nurses and doctors come back to work when they're screaming, when they're desperate for staff? Why can't they? I must say, and I don't know if it's just because I happen to be at hospital, but my father's had, really good care considering. So I try and do everything. So all they have to worry about is getting all his vitals, giving his medication, and I even say to cleaner, I've even got my own mop. Ikira. And I say to the cleaner, just do what I just do it. I just do what needs to be done. And my mother thinks my father has to clean his room in the hospital. Part of it's because, it's a long time. I went up for the first time in 2 weeks from the hospital with my mother. And so we had a little mother-daughter outing this afternoon. So that was great. But I just want to check in, whānau. Kia ora to Maggie, Michelle, Dean, Janine. Thank you for your comments as well. Thank you to Kui, Stella, Cherie, Debbie. Oh, you fellas are awesome. Anna, Rick, Bonnie, Trish, Dean, Kui, kia ora Kui, Jess, thank you all. Stella. Oh, you fellas are too much. Thank you so much. Now, I'm just going to go back to the last comments to see if there's any questions that you want me to answer. I'll just bring this one up. What are you saying here, Bonnie? Donna, those numbers are not even close. They have done total mortality deaths and composed the numbers dates from previous years. It's more in the facility of 2,500 after the first, not reported as people didn't connect the dots. So now thousands, 100,000 plus ACC applications are declined, saying it was choice. Okay, Bonnie, I am I have a legal background, and I have a research background, and I can only go by the evidence and the data that I see. So if you've got some other evidence and some other data, then please put it up on the link and I'll check it out. But that may be the case or it may not be the case, but it's not something that I can state if I haven't seen the evidence. The thing about MedSafe, and then you've got CALM. So you've got, all these deaths that are happening and all these adverse events and serious adverse events that have happened, right? And then you have the ones that are recorded. So there's only been 3 deaths recorded thus far. Well, that was from the last time I checked MedSafe, and I did want to bring MedSafe on so we could go through and check out the numbers again. But maybe when I get an opportunity to do another live, that is what we'll do. But thank you anyway for your comment. But if you have any data that shows that maybe it's data overseas, maybe it's happening in other countries, then Kate Pai, put the link up and let us all do our research together. But I'm only sharing what's on MedSafe, which is the government's data that's coming through. What does Anna say? JA can do whatever she wants. Proved it over the last 2 years. JA had protesters outside a kura she opened in Christchurch and horns tooting in support for the protest. Yes, we've seen that on the news as well. So I will try to find it. I've got thousands of pieces of bits and pieces. I know the feeling there, so have I. Thousands of areas of research, but that's awesome if you can find that. Tautoko Peri as social workers in the same situation. Exactly. Social workers, all our frontliners, are all in the same situation. What does Janine say? Artificial intelligence predicted 50% job loss in every sector. Artificial has no mandate for the deliberate purposeful unemployment to return to work 50%. Okay. Not too sure how yeah, I'll carry on with and read your comment again, Janine. Again, whānau, if you have stats, if you're talking like percentages and information, please can you put your sources up, because this is what keeps us out of the conspiracy. Not that it always happens, but some people call me a conspiracy theorist or sharing misinformation, disinformation. Really, I don't give a shit what they think. What I do give a shit about is, if you're going to call me that, then, and I do state it, I say, so what part of my comments do you think are dis or misinformation? What part of my comments do you think are conspiracy theory? And no one has come back and actually being specific, and that's why it's so important, whānau, that we stick to facts, we stick to data. I mean, there is underreporting. We know that. I mean, what even MedSafe has said is that underreporting, they only capture about between 5 and 10% of the data, right? They only capture 5 to 10%. So, you equate that data and consider that, then you know that there is that the calculations are not true calculations. So I'll give you that. But what we have got there is the calculations, because one thing that they have to register by law is every death, right? And every death that is associated to, well, not associated, I've got to be careful of my wordings here, but it has so the deaths that happen after a person had been vaccinated, okay? After a person has been vaccinated, those are recorded and those are facts. And because I couldn't get back into MedSafe, I can't give you the updated data. All I can give you is, I think it was about Safety Report 41. There were just over 1,000 deaths after the first vaccination, just over 1,000 deaths after the second vaccination, and there were a few hundred after the booster. And like I've told you in the past with my other lives, in 2021, between February and November, there was a curve, right? And that curve happened, that was the rollout of the vaccination. Now, what was identical to that curve was the deaths. 2,000 extra deaths during that rollout. There are 3 reports that were done, 2 at Waikato University, and one was Dr. Guy Hatchett's colleague that did another report, and they were all consistent. And that was also consistent with the deaths that happened with MedSafe. Here's the clincher though, whānau. The clincher is that they were 2,000 extra deaths from previous years. So that data showed that there were 2,000 deaths, more deaths than the previous year, and then the previous year to that, in the previous year to that. What I'm interested in seeing, because I've lost a nephew during the booster period, is how many deaths. So we've seen that curve between February and November 2021, 2,000 extra deaths. I want to see the period of the booster rollout and how many extra deaths to previous years as well. Not including 2021, but including 2020, 2019, and even 2018. And that, whānau, will give you a picture. And that, whānau, the government can't answer. Where have those extra deaths coming from? Now, if you get candidates in by-elections that are aware of that data, right, aware of that information, and they are not allowed to debate those established parties, especially the blue and red, then you know that they don't want to debate those issues, because you know why? They haven't got an answer. So they've divided the candidates so that those debates cannot happen. That is not democracy, my dear whānau. That is not democracy. That shows you that they haven't got an answer for those questions. And they are questions that we have a right to have them answered. Why? Because our whānau are dying. That's why. Because our whānau are getting injured. That's why. So, yeah. I'm just trying to... what does Bonnie say? Sorry. Conspiracy theorists, what actually means a conspiracy theorize? We theorize a conspiracy. Well, it's only a conspiracy until it's proven to be correct, eh? Hey. Politicians, councillors, and their negotiating trade partners are compliant to algorithms. AI controls trade, transport, infrastructure. Yes, I do agree. Just getting the gist of your kōrero, Janine. AI, as artificial intelligence, is going to play a huge role in our lives and in our children and our mokupuna's lives. And algorithms, as we can see, artificial intelligence is going to control us. It's going to be a mechanism for a few to be able to control the masses. If you don't believe me and think this is a conspiracy, just check out social credit in China. Just check out what's happened in China over the pandemic, and that gives us an indication of what's going to happen to the Western world, to the so-called free world. Whānau. So, warning. Those of you that are my age and watched Lost in Space, that little robot that went warning. Well, that's what we're doing. We are warning you all. So, kia ora, Belinda. Okay, I'm just trying to see what's 3 months between conspiracy and truth. So it's a time thing. Until the truth comes out, it's really literally a time thing. That's right. Yeah. What does Francis say? My heart is breaking for all our whānau being lost so young, and our elders too, so unnecessary and should not be happening. Oh, it's just my husband, he had tears in his eyes when I saw him today, and he said, we sit there in disbelief. And I said, hun, I hope you were saying something. And I said, yes. I said, I told them that they need to still keep asking the questions why. Ask their leaders the question why. And I said to him, you just, it's your whānau, it's your mamae. And he said, it's just unbelievable, hun. It's just absolutely unbelievable. I said, it's cruel. It's cruel. So, yeah, to lose so many whānau in such a short period of time, that's genocide. That's absolute genocide. And I hope and I know a lot of different people follow me. I know that the ones that love me follow me, and the ones that don't follow me. And those leaders that are out there, or the leaders' minions that are out there, heed my call. Heed my call, because whānau are dying. Young men, my nephew had young boys, just babies, young teenagers. He lost his wife not so long ago to cancer. And now these young boys have lost both their parents, and they were only young. They're young parents. So it breaks my heart. And we have to keep on asking why, whānau, keep on asking why, keep on challenging, keep on saying why, there's so many graves in our urupa. Why are so many out? And don't let them use the flu or even COVID as the excuse, because, we were told, whānau that made the choice to get the vaccination, we're told it is safe and it is effective. And I know for a fact it is not. It is not. And if I could have got into MedSafe, it might be online now, I'm not too sure, but if I could have got into MedSafe, I would have double checked. But my next life, I will make sure, hopefully, their system's up and running. The question is, why is it down? Why is their system down? Thank you, Han. Thank you. I appreciate that, Missy. Thank you. Artificial insemination. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't. No, but that is funny, artificial insemination, because you're right. That's what we knew back in the day, eh? But it's artificial intelligence, AI. That's the modern term for it. But yes, back in the day, it used to be artificial insemination. Okay, whānau, I'm going to go back now and so I just want to quickly go through before I sign off, and yous are just so amazing. So what Neil Oliver was talking about was how corrupt basically Biden is, and he's the most powerful leader of the free world. So much for the free world, eh? That was my point. There is no free world. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. It's like democracy. It's an illusion, hey. And it was funny because ACT, Labour, and National in the by-election. Oh, that's my daughter. Sorry. In the by-election, we're talking about democracy, and what a load of BS, because there is no democracy in the by-election when it comes to the media and when it comes to debating. So I just thought I'd put that there, whānau. But, he was talking also about Sri Lanka and how they went organic, and they stopped using pesticides and herbicides. And he was... he used the word canary in the mine, because I've always used that about Māori. And you look at the last 200 years about how we've been treated. And we got to have an open discussion too about the three waters and co-governance. And I know there's two sides of the debate in regards to that. But I do want to have that kōrero, but I've got to do a bit more due diligence before I do that kōrero, and I really don't have the headspace, I guess, and the time while I'm here with my father, trying to keep him on this side with us, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, what does Tia have to say? Sorry. I haven't been following for long, but man, I love watching your lives. Oh, thank you, Han. I really appreciate that, Tia. I really do. Kia ora mai koe. But I do want to speak to my daughter as well, because we've been playing phone tag all night. So I do want to have a bit of a kōrero, and she hits the sack pretty early. So I'm going to cut myself short. I just want to give you an update too of what's happening with our wharepuni. And while I'm down here, there actually has been lots going on, and it's interesting because I'm an owner. I'm a beneficial owner of I get all the trust updated letters, and it reminds me, of the politics. The general politics, the Labour Party narrative, the Jacinda Ardern narrative, the Dr. Bloomfield narrative, the Hipkins narrative, right? And they got total, they used the MSS to propagate their propaganda, right? And anyway, when I receive the updates as a beneficial owner from the trust about what's happening with our wharepuni, I just have to laugh. I just have to laugh, because they've got all the narrative, right? They and talk about misinformation and disinformation. It really does make me laugh. I just read it and go, oh yeah, we'll have our time in court, and then see how honest you as a trust really are, because it's in court when we're able to show our evidence that we can have our day in court. So you can say whatever you want to your beneficial owners. What really counts is what's been said in a court of law. This is what really counts. So, and it's a battle. It's a battle, whānau, but it's a battle that me and Dad will fight for his wharepuni to his last breath. That's how important it is to him. And I will fight on behalf of my father and on behalf of our tupuna, who gave us such a beautiful tonga. So anyway, just know that fight's for real, whānau, and you've seen, and if you haven't, I'll show you in another live. I'll show you pictures, then I'll show you the report that come out on Te Ao Māori on the news, and you can see why we were so adamant about protecting such an important taonga, and the fact that they spend all this money on a QC, which is a Queen's Counsel, right, which is the highest ranking lawyer you can ever get. And and some people say that Queen's Counsels have more mana than some judges. Actually, they're pretty powerful, and they're pretty bloody expensive as well. And you use our beneficial money to fight to demolish a taonga. It just, the common sense in it all, the kino in it all, the how you can justify all of that. Yeah. So watch this space, whānau, because yeah, I ain't giving up on this fight either. But I will at some stage show you just what we're trying to protect, and where it's gone to. I guess at the moment we're getting ready for court. And that's the space we're in at the moment. We're getting ready for a hearing, and I'll keep you updated on that as well. Okay, whānau, I am going to tune out now so I can ring my kōtero before she hits the sack, because she is she goes to sleep early, to rise early. And kia pai tōpō. Thank you for tuning in, and there's heaps of you that have tuned in tonight, and heaps of comments. Love you to bits. Really appreciate. I even though it's virtual, I feel the love. I do feel the love, and I really appreciate the aroha and the support. And love yous all, and I will keep on fighting. I will fight the good fight. Kia pai tō pō, ka kite anō, kia rara.